Hello, everyone, and thank you, Amit, for this opportunity to talk about Salesforce Scheduler today. I'm going to keep the PowerPoint presentation in normal edit mode and navigate the slides from the side panel over here. All right, so I'm Amit Lukani. I am a senior consultant here at Slalom. I'm also a board member for Salesforce's Community Group Program and lead Salesforce Architect Group for Fort Worth, Texas. I'm a certified application architect, and you can follow me on Twitter at _KULK or scan this QR code to my Twitter handle. So the agenda for today, Salesforce Scheduler, its overview, its capabilities, when to use field service lightning, what's a scheduler, data model. We'll be talking about some of the implementation best practices and the demo. Lastly, we will be reviewing the advanced settings in brief. So what is Lightning Scheduler or Salesforce Scheduler? So Salesforce Scheduler is a native appointment scheduling tool that enables you to deliver a streamlined and personalized experience to deepen and strengthen your customer relationships. So Scheduler helps increase your revenue and productivity and helps you reduce overall IT costs. For example, with streamlined scheduling natively built on Salesforce platform, the banker's productivity is increased now that the customer can schedule an appointment by looking at banker availability on their portal. Scheduler has quite a few moving parts. Salesforce provides a setup assistance to help you along the way to configure accurate scheduling. Now let's look at some of its capabilities. So Salesforce Scheduler can easily map location, availability, skill sets to the appointment. It has inbound and outbound scheduling capabilities. Now, what does that mean? So if you're an employee booking an appointment from Salesforce with a client, that's outbound scheduling. Whereas if a customer is trying to book an appointment through digital experience portal, that's inbound scheduling. Once you buy scheduler licenses, you will get a set of flows that use a set of pre-built Lightning components. These are customizable, giving you a very good level of flexibility over there. Once the data like service resource, appointments are in Salesforce, it is all reportable. So you can up the game with report and analytics. So let's quickly pull up the Salesforce sandbox. So this is my company information. I'm going to scroll down to permission set licenses. I see Salesforce scheduler licenses, and it comes with set of these flows. So if you can ignore the first two, those are my custom built flows, but rest over here that you see coming as managed, installed as its package state, all of them are provided by Salesforce. I'm going to quickly open one of them. So here you go. I'm just going to pick up one screen. Okay, good. So on this screen, as you can see, we have this Lightning component, and there are some parameters that it is passing. We can tweak some of these parameters to make them work as we want. To extend the functionality, it is super easy, and it reduces the development time or time to market, if you will. Okay, now let's go back to the slides and address a very common question that I get. Salesforce has two tools to address scheduling requirements, FSL and Scheduler. The question is, as an architect, which one will you choose? Which one will you recommend to a client? Or as a client, which one should I choose for my company? So answer is pretty straightforward. If your employee or service resource is going to client's location, then FSL is a good fit. On the other hand, Salesforce Scheduler shines if the client comes to your location or office to visit your service resources. All right, now that we have covered an overview, let's zoom into the data model. But first, let's get a high-level understanding of S objects that are at play. So first is service appointment. Service appointment is a central object in the Salesforce Scheduler topic. All the appointments and meetings are service appointment records in Salesforce. A service resource is an employee that participates in the meeting. Service resource object has lookup to user and asset objects. So each service resource is associated with one user or an asset. You cannot have both tied to a service resource. It will always be one of the two. If you have a user associated with the service resource, then you need to assign scheduler license to that user. There is no auto validation. You need to confirm that through user provisioning. Next is skills. You can add skills and associate those with service resources. Service territory is a service office location where your customers meet. This could be virtual or physical location to which your employees belong. Service territory member is a junction object between service resource and service territory. I have not listed all the junction objects explicitly, but calling this one out specifically so that you can start visualizing the connection here. We'll be looking at the high level data model in a few anyway. Work type group is appointment type. For example, if this is an introductory meeting or is it a more detailed financial review type meeting. So we will basically categorize the meetings into work type groups. Work type is a template or a blueprint of that meeting based on the topic or a category. So you will identify the topics or work type groups, and the next step is to define the specifics like duration, buffers, and so forth. Now, let's take a look at the data model. And again, this is a high level data model presentation here for conceptual understanding. The actual data model could be a bit more complex. So I talked about these objects earlier, and now let's understand the connection. So service appointment is associated with either lead, account, or opportunity. So that's where you can deploy a scheduler. And then you can have service appointments associated with either of those. You can also configure Salesforce to create an event record for each service appointment record. This service appointment is associated with service resources specified work type, and it derives the operating hours to the service territory. All right, now we looked at the data model. How about planning the implementation? Let's look at some of the best practices for implementing the scheduler. So you got the licenses, then you start thinking about where you will hold these meetings. What's the location is going to be all virtual territories, or it could be like physical office branches. Then who is going to participate from your company? What type of employees? What are their roles and so forth? That way you can start planning about your licensing as well. And then next question is when. So this when answers different types of operating hours for that given location, that person's availability, and so forth. Once you get that basic understanding, then you start categorizing the types of meetings that you have. And once you categorize those meetings, then the next step is to fine tune it to add, to consider all other parameters that comes with it, like how much is duration, how much is the buffer between two meetings, what type of skills are required, and so forth. Now, this all will come together once we take a look at the example. So, okay, so here is a real life example or near real life example, if you will. Clients would like their customers in Dallas and San Francisco to be able to schedule appointments with their bank officers. Okay. Dallas location offers student loans, credit builder loans, in addition to general banking. Okay, it's pretty tempting to jump in the org and start configuring it. However, before jumping into solution, let's first ensure we fully understand the requirement. So here are some parameters, type of meeting, different locations it is available in, then what types of meetings it will happen, like phone, in-person, or virtual, duration, and some of the time blocks. So for loans, it will be at Dallas Convention Center. Appointment type could be phone, it could be in person, it could be Zoom. The duration is 60 minutes, and they need 15-minute block before the meeting and 30-minute block after the meeting. So what that means is no one can schedule back-to-back meetings. They're going to be some, we're going to introduce some buffers. So I'm going to pull up the org. So we will be creating operating hours, service territories, service resources, scales. Then we're going to assign those scales to service resources. Lastly, we're going to create work type and work type groups. Looks like a lot of steps, but nothing to worry. Salesforce has made it very easy with Salesforce Scheduler Setup Assistant. That's what we are looking at. In this demo, we will not be using the assistant. Instead, we are going to set up Scheduler following a logical sequence of steps. Okay, let's start with laying the foundation, the permissions. Okay, so I went ahead and created this permission set ahead of time to save some time on this demo. This basically gives basic object level access, and it also has the Salesforce license. Now, the client wants their bank officers to take appointment via phone, in person, or virtually via Zoom. So let's ensure these service appointment types are set. To do that, I'm going to Object Manager, Appointment. And then I'm going to look for appointment type. This is a pick list. So I already see in-person and phone, which is perfect. I'm going to add one for Zoom. Save. A quick tip here. The value and API name, they don't exactly match. So the value could be whatever the client wants it to call it. The API name comes handy to set logo on how it will appear when we run the scheduler. The icon of the appointment type is derived using the utility icons on Lightning Design System. So if you go to LDS library, and here you'll see different icons here. If I have to just use one of these, this one, meet focus equal, copy that, go back to my pick list. I'm going to edit this. I'm just going to change Zoom to this. So now whenever I will launch scheduler, it will show me this logo for this third Zoom option. Pretty cool. Now going back to the requirements, the Dallas location offers student loan and credit builder loan. So let's make sure that we add those. Okay, so these are categories, like loan category of the meeting. So that means we have to go to work type group. So I'm going here, and then additional information. This is a multi-select pick list. I'm going to add two values for student loan and credit builder loan. Perfect. So now let's create a skill for financial planning. To do that, you just go back here and just search for skill. I'm not going to add more skills for this demo. What we have will suffice. Now, again, going back to scheduler setup app. Okay, now we're going to add operating hours. So I'm just going to go in here. Okay, I'm going to call it central hours. So I've added a name, description, selected the time zone, then added different time slots. I can select what the timing should be for each time slot. I'm going to change this to 4 for Friday, then save. So operating hours are now set. Next step is to create the service territory. Make sure to mark it active. Okay, so save. Perfect. So the next step is to create the service resource. I'm just gonna call it, make it active, look for my user, and then hit save. Okay, so I go to this service resource. Now it's time for me to assign service territory and assign skills. Salesforce has provided these quick actions. It's fairly easy. If not, you can anyway go to related list and add those from here too. I'm just gonna assign skills from here. So general banking. I'm gonna add skill level at 75, just picking a random number and this date. So quick tip about this date. This date can be anything in the past. That means it's active, assign service territories. Now you do the same thing. Start date, any date in past. I'm not gonna give any end date, otherwise you could potentially do that. And also role. We haven't defined any roles, but you can start defining roles and start adding there. Save it, perfect. Next step is to create the work type group or a category of that meeting. So we are going to create one for loans. All right, one quick note here for group type. We have two options, default and capacity. Capacity is a group type used to define work capacity limit in the field service Lightning world. Default is a non-capacity group type used in Lightning Scheduler. So I'm going to keep it as default, make it active. And here you can see we added these two values for multi-thread pick list. I'm going to make these two values as one of the available ones. There we go. Next step is to create work type. This is the actual template of the meeting. I'm going to select central hours, and 60 minutes is what we have decided. Change the duration from hours to minutes. block 15 minutes before the meeting, 30 minutes after the meeting, and then save. Okay, good. So we are almost done. Now we have to do is we have to make these connections using, basically you have to create junction object records. So I'm going to assign skills with this work type, general banking. Skill level, I'm going to keep it empty for now. Then we have service territory work type. So this is to connect this specific type with the service territory. And lastly, connecting that to group members. So there we go. Cool. We are pretty much done. Before we take it for a spin, let's understand how we can deploy Scheduler to the users. There are a couple of ways you can do that. One is through action. So remember, all of these flows behind the scene. So if you create a custom action and then put it on the page layout, you can do that. That's how you can deploy it. For example, I've created this action here. This is what I've kind of drag and drop on the account page layout. That's what we will use. Another option would be to use digital experience. And you can basically add a flow component, select a flow, pass a parameter. That's how you can deploy it. Okay, let's go to the account now. I'm going to click on the schedule a meeting. Awesome. So you have 3 different options to find a service resource. Okay, the first one is to buy work type group, appointment type, or service territory. Scheduler maps all these things and to give you a proper recommendation. Next one is if you know exact name, you can start searching for that name and then find. And lastly, if you have already scheduled any of the meetings and you still want to just have a follow-up, or you like the person, if that's your assigned advisor, then this shows different cards on of the service resources with which you have already had meetings in the past. I'm just going to select the first one. Next, loans. There we go. I can select what types of loans. I'm just going to say, yeah, like this. Next. And it shows these icons. These icons, like I said, it pulls from the utility from LDS, and for Zoom, it's showing that Meet Focus icon over here. I'm going to select that. And now I'm going to look for zip code for Dallas. And there we go. Look how cool this is. It shows the approximate distance, the name, the exact address of that branch. Not just that, it also tells us what are the operating hours of that branch. It's a pretty cool card. Next, it shows who are the available people in that branch. Right now, we don't have much option. It's just one service resource, so we're going to just select that. But here's the cool thing about it. If there are multiple resources available, it shows what their role is and what their next availability is. You can make a selection based off of your preference. All right, so this is pretty cool. And it is in right now Pacific Daylight Time. That's fine. Okay, I'm just going to select one for Central Time Zone. It updates that availability. I'm just going to select one for, from Wednesday from 10 to 11. And here is the cool part. So you can see that the first time slot starts at 10 a.m. on Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. The next one starts at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's because I've given them the spacing between 2 start times at 60 minutes. You can configure this. For example, you can do this. Hey, first one starts at 10 from 10 to 11. Second one starts from 10:30 to 11:30. Third one starts from 11:30 to 12:30 and so forth. Right, next. Okay, so I've added some details over here. You can essentially add contact information if it's not already captured at the client level. So these phone and email, this is specific to this appointment. I'm not going to add anything here. I'm just going to say next. Hey, you're all set. So I do have a custom flow that runs when a service appointment is created in the backend and sends me an email. There is no out-of-the-box email that goes through the scheduler. Cool. So that's it. That was super easy. Over here, you can see the service appointment got created. You can view that service appointment. You can choose to modify that if you want to, but this is pretty cool. Let's go back to the slides. Yeah, so it's time for looking at some of the advanced features. So think of some advanced scenarios, like a doctor's office wants to maximize their doctor's time, so they want to book several patients in a given hour. For this, Salesforce provides you with an ability of concurrent scheduling. So it's very easy to schedule multiple customer appointments in the given same time slot so that you can maximize their productivity. Similarly, if you want to add more than one service resource to the same appointment, then you can enable multi-resource scheduling. Okay, let's go to the org and see how we can customize this. If you go to Salesforce Scheduler settings, here you can see different advanced options like multi-resource, concurrent scheduling. Okay, another important one in the advanced features is appointment distribution. If you enable this, Salesforce lets you allocate appointments equally and evenly among service resources. This equal distribution of appointments ensures efficient use of service resources and increased productivity overall. So that's pretty much it. It's very easy. Let's talk about scheduling policies for a bit. A scheduling policy allows you to enforce one or more rules that help you find best service resources for the appointments. So this is the default one that we got. Let's open this up. Let's take a look at the first row. Zoom in a little bit more. There we go. So first row is match skills and match skill levels. So these two allow only essential service resources with specific skills and skill levels to be assigned to the appointment. If you remember, I've added that skill and then I given like 75 as my skill level. You can play with that. So the next are include only required service resource. So this setting allows only the required service resource to be assigned for the appointments. Resource preference is a junction object where you can maintain that service resource preference with that given account. Next is ignore excluded service resources. So this prevents excluded service resources from being assigned to the appointments. Again, the same resource preference. If it's set as excluded, then those resources are not shown for that given account. There is a catch though. Users can still schedule appointments with excluded resources by selecting either by name or by previously scheduled appointments option when you're running a schedule. So for example, if I do this now, if they select by name or by previously scheduled service resource appointments, they can still select one of the excluded service resources with respect to of the adding to that resource preference object record. Okay, next is check Salesforce calendar for resource availability. If you check this, it considers Salesforce calendar events. So if you are busy or out of office, it doesn't show those are your available time slots. Next one is interesting. Check external systems for resource availability. So you can select your custom Apex class to read external calendar events and pass that detail back to the service resource schedule handler Apex interface, and then you can go from there. It's just, to me, it's pretty cool. Include primary service territory members, pretty straightforward. Appointment start time interval. Yeah, this is the one that I was talking to you about. I've set it up at 60. That's why you could see that 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Next is 11 a.m. to noon and so forth. If I change this to, let's say, 180, save it, and then go back to here. Then now you see, first one is starting at 10. Next one is starting at 1 because I selected 180 as my option. So that's the effect it takes. Okay. So the next one is use service territory member shift. So when determining the availability of service resource for appointments, the operating hours defined for the service territory member are considered by default instead of members' operating hours. Include secondary service territory members, pretty similar to this one. Again, pretty straightforward. This option allows service resources who are secondary members of the service territory to be assigned. Next one is use service territory members shift. So this is in a bit more advanced scenario. So checking this option considers the intersection of shift and service resource operating hours when determining the availability of service resource for that appointment. Last is enforce accounts visiting hours. So this option prevents users from scheduling appointments outside of accounts visiting hours. Only time slots within that account records operating hours are shown. Okay. So that was it. That was the overview of advanced settings of scheduling policy. Hope you found it valuable. And please follow Apex Hours on Twitter, LinkedIn. And if you have not subscribed to their YouTube channel yet, please do it now. Once again, thank you, Amit, and thank you all for watching.